This is my guess. I would think that a Dandy reader is an action man. The Beano reader, maybe he'll be, in no way derogatory, he might be a librarian or an accountant.
Really, we're quite proud of our jobs. And it's quite a good talking point because it stirs memories in people that we're speaking to.
But would someone believe you if you said, I'm the editor of the Beano? In some of the Fife Miners pubs where I have been known to drink, you might just say I'm in publishing.
Yeah, that's right. It depends on what company you're in.
It's such an unusual job to write the stories for the Dandy and the Beano. Just recently, my wife started to believe it that...
After 14 years old?
That's the one. Well, Helen, I'm the editor of the Dandy. And I look after the comic. I check out the scripts and the artwork and just look after it in general.
And I do the same job on the Beano comic. I've done for the last 3 years.
I worked with him for a few years as his chief sub-editor and have recently escaped from the fold and taken over the Beezer comic during the last 2 months. Again, a similar job to the other gentleman here.
When you look at the two comics, there's not a lot of difference. It's a difference in... it's the mood of the comics. The Dandy, going back a long time, has been a more... You might say a more robust, a more vigorous comic. We go in for a lot of slapstick, slapdash stuff. I'll not say violence, because violence is not right. It's we're a robust comic. The Beano, I feel, tends to be a bit slicker. It's a bit
highbrow.
Well, I wasn't going to say highbrow. No. There's a different audience. There's two.
There are more softies in it.
There's more softies, yes. There's not many softies read the Dandy. But certainly not the ones that write to us anyway. They seem to quite like the biffs and the bangs and whatnot.
Well, in 1937, it was felt that there was a place on the market for a comic. We hadn't got into comics at that time. So they took Albert Barnes off the Hotspur, that's where his chief sub, and asked them to produce a comic, which was the Dandy, and it came out in December 1937. And it was a success, so that the directors thought they could put a companion paper on the market almost immediately, and I was taken off the Hotspur and the Wizard at that time and asked to produce the Beano. And it came out in July 1938. It was the biggest paper of 28 pages with very little cost. It only cost 2D in old money. And there was quite a mix of cartoons and dramatic picture stories, and also the written story, the prose story, which of course has got out of fashion these days. Martin has been going right through from the beginning.
He's quite a strange character, really, isn't he? He's not like any of the other cartoons.
He's a character that every reader wanted to be. I mean, to be a young lord who had a lot of money and everything at his fingertips, a Rolls Royce, a big house, banisters for sliding down, butlers and footmen and all that kind of thing. It was a great background for story material. And then, of course, over the wall was the gasworks and the gasworks gang. And also a lot of kids that Lord Snooty wanted to mix with. So that we had the clash of the good and the bad.
Well, this is the Dandy office. Come inside and I'll introduce you to my staff.
Hi, I'm Brianna McMillan. I'm the Dandy balloonist. I do all the balloon work and colour work for the magazine.
Hello, I'm John Methvin, chief sub-editor and Desperate Dan's scriptwriter.
Hi there, I'm Jim Mackenzie, comic genius, and I write such great characters as Cuddles and Dimples and the Jocks and Geordies.
Hi, I'm Ian McLaughlin. I'm not quite as much of a genius as Jim, and I write the scripts for Cocky the Cat and Strange Help.
Welcome to the Beano office. Come in and meet the staff.
I'm John Kemp. I write Minnie the Minx, Ball Boy, The Germs, Gnasher and Nipper, and Rasher.
Hello, I'm Uncle Al, the kiddies' pal. I write Dennis the Menace, Roger the Dodger, the Bass Street Kids, and Ivy the Terrible.
Hello, I'm George Cobb. I write Calamity James, Billy Whiz, Crack Sid, and Pup Parade.
I'm Craig Ferguson. I write Little Monkey, Number 13, Lord Snooty, and Handle the Letters page.
To some extent, the Beano was a development of the Dandy. Always a great deal of argument in those days, and I think still is, whether comics are a healthy influence or not. I had friends whose parents would not allow them to read these things, and therefore they got my black market copies smuggled and read in secret. The Dandy came from that tradition. I mean, the Thompson tradition in terms of its magazines, particularly of its children's magazines, but it's true, I think, right through its publications, is a rather sort of wholesome, conservative, working class, rather folksy tradition. There was a brilliant series of artists associated with the Dandy in those early days. And then, of course, there was the giant amongst them, undoubtedly, that remarkable figure, Dudley Watkins. He had already made his reputation, rather surprisingly, as a portrayer of Scottish comic character in the D.C. Thomson Sunday Post. There were 2 full-page cartoons there that still exist, one about a small boy called Ur Wully, and the other about a Scottish working-class family called the Bruins. On the basis of that skill, he then developed Desperate Dan, and then when the Beano came along, he developed Lord Snooty.
What kind of person was Dudley Watkins?
He was a strange person. He was a very nice person to deal with. He belonged to some obscure fundamentalist religious group and adhered to that very assiduously. He was absolutely prolific with his pen. It was one of his assets for a publishing firm, that his output per week was very large in volume and remained high in comic quality.